evening, Ajahn. Good evening, everyone here in the hall, the Buddha Loka Centre of the Buddhist Society of Victoria. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for tonight's guided meditation, which will be led by Ajahn Sādaro. Thank you, Ajahn. Also for the guided meditation day or the retreat on Saturday and for the talk yesterday. We'll come to announce a few brief announcements just before the Q&A, but just to start, just a reminder to everyone here to please turn your mobile phone off or have it on silent or airplane mode or something like that. It's not going to be disturbing anyone. Thank you. Ajahn, thank you.
Okay, very good. Looks like everybody's a regular, nobody's new. No, that's good. You all know what you're doing. That's good. I don't have to do too much, that's good. Okay, so if you want to settle into your seats. Might have been running late, running behind, maybe only just got here. Maybe there's been lots of things on today. Let's see if just for now you can just drop them all, put them all aside. Whatever the issues are, we can deal with them later. We might have been running forward or backward in time, thinking about things in the future, or worried about things in the past. Just see if you can drop it all now and sink into what you're doing right at this instant. Just sitting. Nothing special. Nothing difficult. Just simply sitting. Just drop into that experience. Can you just drop everything into that feeling of being aware? as you drop everything and drop into this feeling of just being aware, you might feel the different sensations in your body. Or you might notice your mental state. You might even hear sounds from outside. But what's it like to deeply listen to what's going on the inside? Can you listen to your body in some way, as opposed to feeling sensations? What's it telling you? What's it telling you that it needs adjustment? See if you can get curious and experiment with this, just really trying to, instead of feeling all the different sensations in your body, can you actually just listen to it? In a deep but open manner. Can you dive in even deeper? Can you listen to your gut or listen to your heart? What's it telling you? You might think, well, nothing. But just sit and be quiet and listen. You might need to listen for a long time. also tend to notice our thoughts, the different mental states that we have. But what's it like to deeply listen to our thoughts? Deeply and attunedly listen for that little voice inside. What's it telling us? Can you hear any inner silence between the thoughts? Again, not noticing, but listening. We're so used to turning our attention outwards, paying attention to what we hear outside. But what's it like, again, to listen to the body? What's that tension telling us? Or listen to our gut or our heart, or that little voice inside of us. If we just tune in and deeply listen, what are we being told? What have we missed because we're not listening? If we listen, what can we learn? What might we understand that we overlooked? This takes us getting out of our own way and just listening. Not outwardly, but inwardly. Nice. Hope you all had a nice sit, nice quiet sit.
Thank you, Ajahn. Just before we go to any questions, a few brief announcements about the upcoming events at the Buddhist Society of Victoria this week. A reminder, if you want to continue your meditation practice during the week, we have another session here in the hall tomorrow night led by our lay teacher Sandeep at the same time, 7:30. Also, you can join our online meditation groups through Discord, the online platform that you can find out about through our website or newsletter. And we have group meditations in the mornings between 4 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. That's called New Day, New Mind. And on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, Ajahn Nando joins that room at 6 a.m. To help with the guided meditation. Also in the evenings at 7 p.m. from Monday to Thursday, we have Make Meditation a Healthy Habit. That's a 20-minute monastic-led guided nightly meditation. So lots of opportunities to continue your practice through the week. Next week's teaching program here will be, the Sunday morning talk will be given by Venerable Thich Phuc Tan. And then the Monday night guided meditation will be again led by Ajahn Sādaro. So thank you. That's all the announcements. So if there are any questions in the hall, feel free to raise your hand.
Thank you for the meditation, Ajahn.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you have any advice for how to better relate to particularly intrusive, repetitive, more obsessive thoughts that just seem to keep knocking on the door?
Yeah. So you're talking like generalized intrusive, repetitive thoughts, or are you talking about intrusive thoughts that impair your functioning in some kind of way?
More general ones.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and maybe if you could address just general everyday thoughts, maybe what's been experienced during the day, and also the case of ones that are particularly rooted in anger.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there's a few kind of different ways to go about it. One way is this kind of, well, okay, there's the Buddha talked about sort of like crushing the mind with the mind kind of thing. So that's that is where, like, if you are having repetitive intrusive thoughts, then you can use other kind of repetitive thoughts to stop that. So it might be something like, repeating a meditation mantra like over and over and over again. That's one way you can go about it. You can just sort of try it and see if it works. Some people actually find that makes it sometimes worse, though, because you're sort of speeding up in some kind of way. The other way is to maybe use a little bit of wisdom towards your thoughts in some way. And that we say, well, we're having repetitive and intrusive thoughts, but even the thoughts that seem repetitive are actually different. Like each thought is a little bit different. So it's like, well, is it really the same thought, or is it a different thought? Might be about the same theme, obviously, but it is a different thought. So we can somehow like look at this with a little bit of wisdom and go, actually, okay, yeah, it seems repetitive, but it's not. It's something different. So everything that I experience, it is just something that arises and passes away. So even something that feels repetitive and similar. Now, you asked more specifically about like repetitive, intrusive kinds of thoughts of anger or some kind of frustration or agitation. And this is where actually trying to, again, you could say like construct a different kind of mind state there, where you're maybe trying instead, well, you're having like an intrusive, repetitive thought of frustration or anger. Try to bring about a like repetitive thought of kindness towards that object of anger. So say for example, it might be a kind of self-related thing. It's like, I can't believe I did this stupid thing. I said the dumb thing again. I was in a social situation and I was like, I said something stupid another time. So trying to give yourself that kind of kindness. It's like, yeah, well, look, we all say stupid things, sometimes. So yeah, maybe next time it should be better. But again, giving yourself that kind of kindness, that kind of soothing. Or if it's to somebody else, it's like, well, somebody's annoyed you. It's like, well, maybe the reason that they're annoyed, they're acting annoyingly, is because they're having some sort of suffering in some kind of way. So you could say there's this way of sort of crushing the mind down with just another repetitive thing. There's a kind of way of using wisdom to overcome it. But then there's that way of using this kind of constructive kind of antidote to this thing. You can just play around with these different things, see what works for you. Worst comes to worst, like get up and go for a walk. Like, change it, figure something else out to do. The not so great thing to do is to just try to stop it by distracting yourself, like in you'd say a kind of just a reactory kind of way. You don't want to go, well, I'm just angry, so I'm just going to look at my phone, and that stops me feeling angry right now. When I say sort of get up and do something else and distract yourself, go for a walk, or try to do something that's not further agitating in some kind of way. Go on. I don't know, wash your hands or something. I don't know. But yeah, there's a few different things you can try, and just try them out, see what works. Different things will work for different people. The kind of the litmus test of is it working or not is like, is it calming it down a little bit more, or is it agitating it more? So let's say, for example, you have these intrusive, agitated thoughts, and you're like, oh, crush the mind with the mind, Buddha, 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 and repeat some sort of word, and it's just making things worse. Yeah, okay, then it's obviously going the wrong way. But if you're like, oh, crush the mind with the mind, Buddha, 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 oh, hang on, everything starts to calm down, then that thing sort of works for you. And different things can work at different times as well. So yeah, just play around with a few different things, just try them out.
Thank you, Ajahn.
No problem.
Thank you, Ajahn. We have a few online questions. Let's go to the first one, and then we might go back to if there are any more questions in the room.
Yep.
I'm going to jump to the last one, which seems to be the most pressing, the most recent one, and see if we have time for the others. So the first one is, how can I stay with a positive mind state during cancer treatment? I'm getting fed up with trying to be kind to my mind state all the time. Please, could you help me to be kind to myself? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's such a difficult thing to have to do, to be, kind to yourself in the midst of such a challenging and confronting thing. And I think it's so hard because we have this expectation that we should just sort of accept it, or we should be like, oh, I should be kind to myself and I should be happy. And it's like, sometimes these things just aren't realistic. It's just not realistic to go, I'm just going to be kind to everything, or I'm going to be happy all the time, or I'm going to just accept things for what they are. We're not built like that. So it's a kind of fallacy to think in that way, that we should be happy all the time, or we should be kind to ourselves at every moment, or we should be kind to everybody else. I don't think this is possible. So I think there's this element there, is like that we sort of have to accept that, like, what is happening right now is we're suffering a lot. And instead of going, well, I need to sort of like change that to be some other kind of way, there is a kind of power in accepting that's like, you know, this is suffering. This is dukkha. This is something that is very hard to bear. This is a huge thing to actually bear. And so there's that element of, instead of going, well, I need to change it in some kind of way, it's like, well, can I just bear it? Can I just accept this thing? And there's this kind of wonderful reflection that and I've never, I've never gone through cancer. So look, the bottom line is like, I don't know. Like, I've never gone through anything that intense. So look, I can say these things to you, but it's like, I haven't done it. Like, if I got cancer, I'd probably freak out, and I'd get angry at things, and I'd get angry at the treatment, and I'd get angry and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'd probably do the same thing. I've been practicing meditation a long time, but I think it's kind of, it's like an offhanded kind of platitude for me to say, well, you should just accept it and be kind and all these things. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. So I can imagine, though, that I'd get annoyed. I'd get all those kinds of things. But there's also something there to be said about, well, I've spent so much of my life thinking about that existence is dukkha. Hopefully that would help me in some kind of way. And so getting back to this idea that you're in dukkha at the moment. You're in like one of the worst kinds of dukkha that you possibly can. And that, what other choice do you have but to bear it? There's not too many other options. And so having this thing where it's like, well, I can bear this thing. I can be, just this fact that I'm alive now, just this fact that I'm still trying, actually, this means that I can bear it. I'm going through the thing right now, so I am actually bearing it, that I am strong enough to get over this and get through this, I should say. So instead of going, well, I should just sort of be kind to myself and I should be kind to other people when everything like totally sucks at the moment, it's like, I think sometimes it's just an unrealistic expectation. I think if you can just sort of accept the dukkha, and that you can, if you look at your own situation and go, well, look, I am actually bearing this. I am actually I can get through this thing because I still exist right now. The suffering isn't so bad that I don't exist anymore. Like, you still exist right now. So within that, you actually have the strength to get through the thing because you're still existing through it. So I think, if we can do this and, we can sort of realize, I was like, yeah, there's going to be times I don't want to be kind to myself. There's going to be times I'm going to be angry. There's going to be times that everything sucks. There's going to be times where I can't sort of accept what's sort of happening. I think if we do that and we just sort of realize that it's not always going to be good, this makes it somewhat, maybe, hopefully, like a bit easier to bear, and not have this kind of expectation on ourselves that I should be another kind of way, or I should be happy. And I think happiness is a ridiculous concept to try to go towards. I think only, the only people that are happy are probably arahants. But like for the rest of us, this idea that we should be happy and we should be kind, and it's like all the time. I just don't think it's realistic. I think it's condescending to actually say this to people that are in some very, very severe suffering. So I think if in some way that we sort of look at dukkha in this way and go, well, this is a part of it, and the fact that I exist now actually means that I can bear this thing, and even though it sucks and it's terrible, I can bear it, I can get through it, and I still exist. And that element of me existing and me being able to bear it, maybe that is of benefit to others. Maybe that is a kind of inspiration to others. If you can bear this thing, if you can bear this with compunction and comportment and grace, even in the midst of this suffering, then you actually become an inspiration towards somebody else, to other people that might be in that situation. Because what I think you become is a realistic role model, not an unrealistic role model that is just trying to go through these kinds of platitudes towards, I'm accepting this and blah, 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 all these kinds of things. I'm happy. I think you become more of a realistic role model for people that are actually going to go through this. So, and again, look, I can only say these things. I've never been through it, so I don't really know. It's like, I'm sure when I hit some kind of massive sickness that is going to happen to me at some point, I'm going to be a crybaby. I'm going to complain. I'm going to do all those things. So just the fact that you're actually not doing those things and asking these questions, this is good. I'd just be complaining all the time, and I'd be getting annoyed at everybody. So I think so far so good. You're doing well.
Thank you, Ajahn, for your compassionate and honest answer. If that ever does come to that, we can play you tonight's talk and see if it helps.
I don't believe the things I said like this to myself this morning, let alone something that happened a long time ago. I keep changing my mind all the time, so not even my own words are going to convince me.
Are there any questions in the hall?
Yep. Hello. So in the sutta where it says, in meditation, the first step is initial thought and discursive thought. What does that mean?
You mean in the factors of the jhanas where you apply initial and so the kind of initial thought is where you sort of in some way sort of set the mind up to stay on a thing. So initial and applied thought. So there's again different translations, but you can just think of it in this way as when you're setting a bottle down or something, it's like you initially have to sort of grab the thing and you have to sort of put it there and stabilize it, and to apply something is you need to sort of stabilize it there like that. So the initial is the kind of picking it and putting it down. The applied is how do I balance? Let's go the other way. That would be better. That's a better example. So the initial would be putting it there, but the applied would be how do I sort of balance this thing so it doesn't stay? And then once you've got the initial and applied thought and you've been able to apply it in this kind of way, then it will stay. So it is this kind of, initial is the kind of the setting up, and the applied is the kind of the stabilization that you want, that we're sort of trying to do there. Does that make sense? Or yeah, cool.
Let's go to another online question. Thank you.
Yeah.
just like to say the person who asked the question, who's going through the cancer treatment, responded, "Thank you so much, Ajahn. That was a realistic answer. I'm being a crybaby too."
Yeah, good. You're allowed to be here.
So the next question is, do you have tips for someone prone to overanalyzing who wants more information and confirmation about meditation, but at the same time not letting it impede the meditation practice?
So you're speaking about my behavior. I overanalyze. I overanalyze everything, and I'm always sort of like, oh, how can I find more information about a thing and find out more about it and what's wrong with it and all these kinds of things. So when you're looking at this in meditation, there's something. So if you have that tendency, I think it's about not going, well, this tendency is like the wrong way to do this thing. I should do it another way. It's like, well, how do you actually use that thing well? And so if you do have the tendency to overanalyze and try to find a lot of information, then this is fine. But, it just depends how you use it. So are you using it in a way where you're jumping around just to because in some way that you're restless? Or are you using it in a way it's like, okay, I've tried this thing and it's okay, I see this element of it here where it's maybe not working. Or if I find this other bit of information so I can tweak the practice in this way to make it work a little bit better, is that a good way to go about it? So I think it's about not going, well, I shouldn't overanalyze this stuff and I shouldn't think too much. It's like, well, I think that's sort of the wrong way to go about it, is like go about it in the way of like, how do I use this thing? And how do I use that constant kind of search for new information or overanalyzing thing? How do I actually use that in my practice? How can I use that skill as well to actually like analyze my experience? How do I use that constant kind of searching for information to search for something within my own experience and within my own practice? How do I use that analytical method in my own practice and towards my own biases and my own mental states? So I think if you can do this, then this thing actually starts to turn into a strength, not a weakness. So I think if you do that, like what's going to happen is you're going to sort of like swing different ways. You're going to swing one way of like, I'm just acquiring too much information and this is going to be the way it goes, and then it's going to swing another way where it's like, I'm just sort of getting dull and lethargic kind of thing. But it's about finding a good balance between analyzing things, trying to investigate them in a particular kind of way, and then also then doing your practice and then being able to go, well, okay, I have that skill and I have that capacity and I have that tendency to do these things. But how can I? But when can I put that down? Because there's going to be times where it's good to compartmentalize and go, okay, I have this tendency, but the mind is starting to calm down now. I can drop all that. I can drop all that and let it go into a kind of calm. So I think there's this element there. If you learn how to use it well, it can be of service to you. But then you have to get it to the point where it's not getting in its own way. So what I mean by that is, like, if you're like analyzing your experience in a way and your mind is starting to calm down, there's a point actually, where you do have to drop it. And when you drop it, then the mind can drop into a state of calm. But if you're like, oh, cool, I'm getting calm. What's this going to be like? Oh, this is going to be great. You still do it. I'm going to say you don't do it, but you still do it anyway. But if you can sort of learn the point where you should drop it, then that's really, really beneficial, because then it's like this kind of you're whirling in a whirlpool kind of thing. And if you just learn how to like whirl in the whirlpool properly, like eventually it'll get to the point where it like spins down and it'll spin to a point and then it just sort of drops. But again, it's that learning when to let that go that is going to be beneficial, as opposed to the analytic or the over-analyzing capacity that you actually have. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Because yeah, look, I'm the same. I overanalyze things way too much. So you've probably noticed by my answers to questions.
Thank you, Ajahn. We've just got one more online question. Oh, we've got a question in the room. Great.
Yep.
Hi, Ajahn. Yeah, my question is, I realize when I pay attention to my body and sensation, and sometimes it will get to a state where it's really calm. And then it's sort of like a still presence, but I'm very clear that it's totally different. It's not the stillness of the mind. So it's sort of like, you know, and then the mind then tries to make sense of, you know, what is this experience? So, just asking, wondering if you know what it is.
So just so I understand the question correctly, you're saying your mind gets to a point where it's sort of temporarily still in a kind of presence, or there's a kind of presence of mind there to know that you're knowing at that point in time? Yeah, I don't really understand the question properly, sorry.
I think there's a difference when I am sort of, let's say when I experience stillness of mind because, you know, I'm focusing on the breath after a while. But this is different from that. This is when I feel like this very still presence in the body. Yeah, so just wanting to understand what that is.
It's hard to say because it is different for different people, like what that is. You know, some people can have a full sense of presence in the body where it's like, and you could say like the kind of, this is sort of why I like a lot of like these like dropping down into the body practice, because it sort of gets you out of your head for a little bit. And so there is this kind of present, like one sort of like sinks into the body, and there is a kind of presence there. Is it like still? No, but you're sort of attuned in some way. And so that kind of attunement sort of means that you're in a kind of harmony at that point in time, where you're just present with you're very aware of your kind of surroundings and the physical body being in its surroundings. But yeah, so that is very different to like the stillness of the mind when you do, you know, focus on something, or your meditation's going well, and you know, in a way that, you know, the body doesn't matter that much anymore because the mind is just becoming very, very still. So yeah, I think it's a kind of, you could say a kind of, you know, embodied presence, as opposed to like a fully internalized or a mental stillness. It's more a kind of embodied kind of thing. So I hope that does that sort of track?
Yeah, well, it's pleasant, but I'm like, okay, so do I keep at it, or, you know, is there any way to deepen it?
Okay, yeah. So I think usually with these kinds of experiences and being able to do these things, it does have a good knock-on effect to other things. So if you think about it in terms of like, well, you know, like I should try to, you know, be a bit kinder to people. I should try to be a bit kinder to people. I should try to do that. I can't really do it all the time, but when I do, it actually has a good knock-on effect to my mood and all these kinds of things. So these elements where we're sort of like dropping into the presence in an embodied kind of presence, I do think that will have a good knock-on effect to your actual practice, because it is this, again, is this kind of, you know, drawing into what's happening like in your experience right now. So I think, you know, if it is sort of leading to this, you know, moments of you know, where things sort of drop away and things are calmer, a bit like this is a good thing. I'd say a similar thing for if you like, let's just say you like sailing. Like, let's just say you like sailing and you get out there and I don't know how to sail. I shouldn't have used this example, but I'm going to, like I've said it now, I'm going to stick with it. Just to show my ignorance of sailing. I don't know, when you're hoisting the sail thing and you're holding onto the thing to make it sail. I don't know.
But anyway, so you get the idea. Like you're within that, and when you're doing this sailing and you're holding the ropes or whatever, it's like you're in that kind of moment of doing the thing, and you're in a kind of flow state, a kind of embodied presence in that thing. I think that's something where, you know, if you were to then sort of like sit down and meditate later, this is going to have a good knock-on effect to that. So anything that you really do that instigates these states where we sort of get out of our head a little bit and become calm and sort of centered in the body, I think, you know, I generally think that's a good thing. I should have used gardening or something. I don't know anything about sailing. Yeah, but you get the idea.
Thanks, Ajahn.
I think we've reached 9 o'clock,
Yep,
so
no problem.
sorry we don't have time for that last online question, but we'll try to get back to it another time.
Another day.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, very good. Okay, nice to see everyone. Hopefully see you all here same time next week. Okay, good night, everyone.